on the line with me right now, Marko Hietala. We all know him from Nightwish, coming out with a new solo album. We're going to talk to him about that. Marko, thanks for taking the time.
Well, yeah, no problem. No worries. Thank you.
It's good to talk to you. Now, I'm intrigued. When did the idea for this album come about? Is this something that's been sort of brewing for years?
Brewing, floating, whichever way you want to call it. Well, that's what's happened. I've had some bits and pieces that I've written music and written lyrics, both in Finnish and in English, during the years. And there's a lot of that stuff that came and we fixed and put it into the songs on this album. But a lot of it was also written and arranged and put together during the couple of the last years. Pretty hard to define what was coming from where and when.
Nightwish have taken a bit of a time off, so it's given you a bit of time. But traditionally, you've been a very busy band. I thought you would have taken some time and just relaxed, but instead you put together a solo album.
Yeah, well, the whole year of freedom, I cannot really stay that way. I mean, I did during this year where there's been really a lot of work. Finished like 3 albums, the Nightwish album and the 2 versions of my own. Did 3 different music videos, did photo shoots, did some shows in Finnish festivals and all that. It was a busy year and I was working like hell. But I can do that take off too. Then after the last photo shoot for Nightwish was done, I jumped on a plane and went to my wife's hometown in Brazil, and from there on we went to the beach side. And I stayed there for a month and something and forgot about everything. That was helpful. And now I'm back here in Finland doing some Christmas shows. The Nightwish stuff is coming up and I'm doing these interviews. So now I'm back on the work.
Okay, tell me about the musicians you assembled for this album. Where did you get them from?
Well, Tuomas Väinölä, the guitar player, Vili Ollila, keyboard player, Anssi Nykänen, the drummer. I've known all these guys for quite a years. Anssi probably the longest, since we met already when we were teens in some musical camp when I was 15 and he was 16. And Tuomas Väinölä, the guitar player, and Vili Ollila, those guys I've known from one of my friends' bands, or a couple of actually, and also from this Christmas project that I'm doing today as well. And I knew these guys to have a wide vision of musical things. And they're rockers, but they really like a lot of other stuff too, like me. So it was a kind of a combination where I figured that this arranging and composing the rest of it and putting all these things together in a package, these guys would be able to help me. And they did. More than I could expect. Tuomas Väinölä got so into the whole album stuff and all that, he ended up recording almost everything and producing and mixing the album because he wanted to. And I said, okay, it's yours. And Billy was writing string arrangements and whatever for the songs and all that. So these guys were, the songs and the ideas might have come from my head originally, but how the album looks and sounds like is also very much because of the guys.
Okay. Now, I was able to download the album last night from the Nuclear Blast portal to listen to it before speaking to you. What a great album.
Thanks, mate. That is good to hear.
I've listened to it 4 times now. It is just an incredible album. I absolutely love it.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Tell us about Dead God's Son. Tell us, where did that come from?
Dead God's Son. It's kind of how would I say? Well, it's a kind of an undefined existential crisis. It's a bit vague, isn't it? Got a lot of nice symbolism and all that into it. But in a way, it's existential crisis. What it comes from is to find out, in this case, in this song, if we go and try to relate it into the real world, then let's say that we have loads of children in the world who are promised eternity, glory, and heaven, and whatever, if they're all that. And if you look at the structures of these organizations that offer you these things, if you look at them objectively, they reveal themselves to be pyramid scams. That is my opinion. So there is a serious line behind all this nicely fantastic metaphors and all that.
Another one of my favorites, Death March for Freedom.
Talks about, or at least that is the kind of a vague storyline that I envision there. A man hunted by a overpowerful lover in let's say not medieval, some very archaic Finnish shamanistic Stone Age history of magic and sword and sorcery, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the album. It's called Pyre of the Black Heart. It's coming out on January 24. Now, I've read somewhere that you're going to be doing some touring with this, but how are you finding the time to slot it in between Nightwish things? Because Nightwish are probably still number one, am I right? And how are we going to fit all this in with Nightwish?
Well, like I said, I already did the Finnish festival shows, and then on February I have a little European tour with the guys that we're going to be doing. But then in March it's going to be Nightwish again. We're going to start working on those, and then we're going to take it on the road. So of course the solo stuff gets put aside for a while. If we have such a luck that some other festival get interested in us, and the Nightwish is already playing there, if they get interested with the album, then of course it's possible for me to play a festival show with those guys if the place is the same. But otherwise I'll have to lay it aside until we've reached 2021 and Nightwish tour at some point of time lies down. But the thing that I said about guys and how they got into the arranging and everything, it did affect the whole thing, so that the solo is what started out as a solo project, started to grow a band. And we had a really good time and good vibes on the summer shows and a few that we did right after summer. So it looks like that there is a very much of a willingness to come back to it when I have the time. And I want to do it because this was a nice outlet for all those ideas that I felt I didn't want to take to the band or were left aside and I still thought they were good, or all these things. And yeah, I want to do it because there was freedom there. I didn't have to think about any of the established genre lines or anything like that. No commercial aspects, because it's a solo album. They're marginal anyway. I could write whatever I wanted to, have structures and ideas wherever they came. And also when Willie and Thomas started bringing their ideas with all the versatility they had, there was no need to pre-structure anything. When you write for the band, you really have to take just proper and right that you take into account what are each people's strengths and weaknesses. And then you write the stuff around so that you get to the best result.
Pyre of the Black Heart, out on Nuclear Blast, January 24. Must be a very exciting time for you. Are you nervous about it?
Well, a little bit, but I'm also growing in confidence a bit. Solo album, of course, you put it out under your name and your face and all that, so it's a responsibility, and people will see it as a product of mine, whether they like it or not. So there is a personal aspect of hoping your kid would be liked. But there is this growing confidence from what you said, and a lot of other interviewers have said. They really got them into the album that they didn't expect this.
I think you should feel pretty good. Absolutely great album. I really love it. Marko, absolutely great talking to you. Best of luck with the album, The Pyre of the Black Heart, out on January 24. Great album. Best of luck with it. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
All right. Thank you, man.